In contrast to most toys from the War for Cybertron trilogy, Classics, Universe 2, and early generations were more about updating, classic character designs, as opposed to just straight up copying them. There were exceptions, like the Classics Deluxe Optimus Prime, though that figure sucks for different reasons. Luckily, even back then, there was an alternative, presenting the far superior Classics Voyager class Optimus Prime. Though a cab over once again, instead of the front portion being a borderline cube, you have the wind vane. The cab windows are recessed in relation to the nose, so he's not quite a flat face this time, and adding onto that, the windows are angled, with the outer edges further back. It's nothing super fancy, but if you're tired of all the many Freightliner-inspired primes that have come out since, and are currently back collecting, this might be a nice change of pace. While Prime dons his trademark red, blue and grey colour scheme with yellow highlights, instead of a plain straight line, the silver markings on this toy sport sharp angles, across the cab and wind vane. Again, nothing remarkable, but it works. And as for other aesthetics, though the rear forms the legs as always, these blue panels which fold up against them later cross into the front portion, covering the thighs and meshing the two halves together deco-wise. As much as Classics Voyager Prime is solid looking, in terms of being solid, I wish the wind vane had more than one peg keeping it in place. Both it and the smokestacks are actually separate pieces, more on that later, so if you lose either or both, the alt mode's kinda screwed, albeit less so than say Generations Cybertronian Megatron, since they make up less of the vehicle in comparison. Various Classics toys bear rub signs. Voyager Prime's is on the cab's right hand side. Oh, and inside, you can just make out a simplified interior, with 2 seats and a left hand side steering wheel. Much like the truck, Optimus Prime's robot mode embodies what Classics set out to do. Though still recognizable as the brand's main legacy character, they've adapted the original design. Prime has the same basic color layout as well as design traits, including the truck windows on his chest, the grille, albeit a downsized fake, on his abdomen, the chunky blue boots with vents across the shins, and the head sporting his usual antenna, crest and mouth plate. However, this is one of the beefier, more aggressive looking G1 Optimus Prime toys. Seriously, that frown. The fake grille is a recurring side effect of the designers trying to give Prime a strong upper body build, while still paying tribute to the original design. Since the actual grille on this toy would be oversized, a combination of these giant truck panels, and the upper half of the cab rotating for transformation, trims the abdomen down and reveals the fake grille. Said panels end up on his forearms, which is the most common complaint thrown at this figure. I can sort of see why, they just hang off and don't look like much of anything. However, while they could fold up a little more so they're properly parallel to the arms, I don't mind them. They're not that visually distracting, nor do they hinder the figure's posability. In fact, compared to other Classics toys, Voyager Prime's articulation holds up great, even without joints like wrist swivels and ankle rockers that you'd find today. Consisting of ratchets, swivels, and hinges. I don't think there's a single ball joint on this guy, not even in the neck. I'd say he has around 22 points total, but I admit, I'm counting a couple of joints that are probably only meant for the transformation, namely the neck platform which can lean forward, and the aforementioned upper body swivel. Lastly, the smokestacks and wind vane actually transform into Prime's laser cannon and ion blaster respectively. I wouldn't make a big deal, but you can bet that if this figure was designed for Earthrise, they'd probably have the wind vane at least be one solid piece, as a shield, but they went the more creative route. If you don't care for the handheld weapons, you can combine the vane and smokestacks, plug them on his back, and you have over-the-shoulder armament. As much as I like the Earthrise mold, this toy should not be shunned on the grounds that it's not a spitting image of the original Prime design. With his dynamic physique, involved transformation, good posability even by today's standards, and clever accessories, this version of Prime ranks alongside Mirage and Jetfire as one of Classic's best. If the Wind Vane had extra pegs for truck mode, he'd be completely flawless. But come on, you know you want this toy. And I know which figure you're dying to see after this.